So hi, welcome to End Credit Reviews on episode of After the Credits on End Credit Reviews. It's just me, Tyler, this time from End Credit Reviews, and this is my review on the movie Greyhound. So Greyhound is a new movie that was recently released by the Apple streaming service. It was based off a book by C.S. Forrester called The Good Shepherd, and it was written by and starring Tom Hanks. It was also directed by Aaron Schneider. I'm not so sure if I'm pronouncing that last name right, but this is one of the only movie I've seen from this guy, but anyway, it's about a captain who's again played by Tom Hanks, who is a sea captain during the Second World War, who is one of the many captains of the various destroyer ships that are trying to escort various supplies across the Atlantic, while also coming into contact with various German U-boats. Now, this movie I know is historical fiction. I had to look it up just in case because I wasn't so sure if this was some sort of declassified mission that was recently declassified, or maybe it wasn't well known in history, or if it was all made up. And I did my research at first to make sure that was the case, but regardless if it was based off something or not, if it was fictitious or may have been based on a true story, this is actually a pretty good movie. This movie had a lot of action from beginning to end. I really liked all the tension where you weren't so sure exactly where the U-boats were at, where the captain and the shipmates are trying to figure out and to outsmart the various U-boats that they're trying to sink before those U-boats can sink their ship. And yeah, I think they did an excellent job with the tension of that. And in a way, it did remind me a bit of Dunkirk by Christopher Nolan. Although I do prefer Dunkirk over this movie, I do think, again, it's a pretty solid movie. I also thought it was interesting, too, that the main character did have his religious faith of being a Christian, and they made a big deal about that. And I was surprised to see that because it's kind of a rarity in movies nowadays to kind of make your main character to be openly religious, especially someone who is Christian, but it's not necessarily a pure flex kind of movie or one of those kind of movies that sort of deal where they feel like they need to quarantine to that, but it was refreshing to see that for a change. And also, towards the end of the movie, kind of a mild spoiler here, and also in the beginning too, I did like how the two portholes in his quarters where we see the light coming through where he's praying, they're kind of like the eyes of God if you think about it that way. At least that's how I saw it. But aside from visual stuff, my expectations were kind of low for this movie, at least when it came to the effects because of the streaming service. But this one definitely had the feel that it could easily have been a theatrically released movie. And of course it couldn't right now because of what's been going on. But anyway, the effects are really excellent. I could tell that they did a combination of shooting on a real ship as well as a set, as well as real computer effects. And I think that most of the effects for the majority of the movie were very strong, and I think they're gonna age pretty well, at least in my opinion. But I do think the weaknesses of this movie is, for one, I felt like the whole flashback with Elizabeth Shue's character of Evelyn in the movie was kind of there to kind of so we can care about the character, but I felt like it was just kind of sort of there, and I wish they would have kind of went back to that later on towards the end of the movie. And I also felt like the other side characters on the ship were just kind of there and didn't have much of a personality. And on top of that, I think the whole runtime of it being an hour and a half, the movie was a bit too short, and I just felt like they could have made this movie a bit longer to develop those side characters. But anyway, I think the movie Greyhound is a pretty solid and very entertaining World War II movie. It's definitely not a movie you're gonna say, oh yeah, this is totally historically accurate, this is what exactly happened. But I got a strong feeling that this is more of a historical representation of a battlefield in World War II compared to what we saw in the movie Fury. So as for Greyhound, I would give it about 3 stars out of 4. So anyway, this is Tyler from End Credit Reviews, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of After the Credits on End Credit Reviews, and I really do hope to make a lot more in the future. Please like and subscribe.